Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and today I wanted to go over some of the biggest changes that have happened to Battlefield 1. DICE is definitely switching things up with this World War I setting, and while it's a lot of fun, it's really enjoyable, when you compare it to past Battlefield games, there's a lot of aspects of it that feel and play completely differently. And so one thing that I love that they've done is that they've really put an emphasis on playing the objective. If all you do is run around going for kills the entire time and you're not participating in any team-based action, you're not reviving, giving out health, or heaven forbid, you don't even touch an objective the entire match, there is no way that you're reaching the top of the scoreboard. If someone in your team is even halfway decent, they get a couple kills here and there, but they are really focusing on trying to capture these points, they're going to absolutely dominate your score, hands down. I really like this emphasis on team-based action in Battlefield 1. Another pretty big difference is the way that they balance the weapons between the classes. There is now a clear distinction in what weapon is going to do well in what situation. For example, the Assault class, the one who's really good at taking out vehicles, their SMGs will ruin anyone in close quarter combat. If you come across someone who is using a designated marksman rifle and you're 10 feet away, that SMG is absolutely going to dominate that player. As soon as it goes more to a medium range engagement though, the designated marksman rifle is going to have the clear advantage and the SMG is going to now be on the back foot. Something that I never really liked about Battlefield 4's system is that they never had this clear distinction. If you ran around as the engineer class using one of the PDWs, you would think that those weapons would dominate in close encounter combat. And while they did have an advantage over some of the other classes in the game, as soon as you went against an assault player who was using an AEK, that advantage went out the window. Yeah, you might be on a level playing field if you're always in close encounter combat, but as soon as the enemy gets further and further away, medium or long range, the AEK is absolutely going to dominate you. There really wasn't any other reason to not use the AEK or these fast rate of fire assault rifles because they had this advantage. And so the way it's going to work in Battlefield 1 is that if you play as the assaults, you're going to ruin people up close. If you play as the medic, you're going to ruin people at a medium distance, or if you have a light machine gun, and if you play with the designated marksman rifle, your sweet spot is going to be at long range. As soon as you start to dabble into anyone else's territory and you go against someone who is going to excel in that situation, you're going to have a very hard time coming out of that firefight alive simply because of the weaknesses and the strengths of the weapon that you're using. Now, the one issue that I have with this, and I know, we got criticisms for a game that isn't out yet, but my one critique with this system is the way that they've gone about nerfing the power of each of the guns. The one thing I didn't like about the SMGs, for example, is that I never really felt like I was in control of the weapon. Not because I couldn't manage the recoil, I was doing that just fine, but there is an insane amount of bullet spread on basically every single one of the weapons. Even the designated marksman rifles, for example, if you're going for a long range shot, there's a lot of bullet spread that you're having to deal with. And so I guess I just didn't like the fact that when I shot at someone, it wasn't because I couldn't manage the recoil, it was more the fact that I just got lucky with where my bullets eventually landed that I actually took out the enemy. So if you are using an SMG and your target's only like 20 meters away, which isn't that far out, you just kind of had to spray in their general area and just kind of hope that this bullet spread was in your favor and that the RNG was going to be allowing you to come out of that firefight alive. I didn't really like that. In my opinion, what I would much rather see is increase the recoil on some of these guns and maybe reduce their damage at a distance. That way, it's not just random luck if you're able to kill someone at that range. It's more of if you can manage the recoil, and while, yeah, it may take forever for you to kill them, it's actually because of your individual skill for being able to line up those shots and eventually take them out with that very minimal damage. I feel like that would be a better way of handling things. And while I know that there are going to be some people out there that will say, oh, you just want the M16A3 from Battlefield 3. You want everything for the assault class to dominate at all distances. That couldn't be further from the truth. Like, I like that there is this rock, paper, scissors approach. I like that when you are playing as the assault class, you have your defined role, but what I don't like is the extreme randomness and the crazy amount of bullet spread at those, even at a minimal distance. I would much rather it come down to recoil management and recoil control and maybe reduce the damage if that's how they want to balance it out, because having it come down to random chance and just random bullet deviation doesn't feel as satisfying in those situations. But of course, this is just my opinion. Another thing that has changed significantly is the way that the Recon Class and the bolt-action rifles perform. Probably one of the biggest differences is that the damage changes depending on how close or how far away the enemy is. So for example, if you try and kill someone who's directly in front of you, they're only about 10 feet away, if you shoot him in the upper chest with a bolt-action rifle, it's going to do about 60 damage depending on the weapon. It might be a little bit difference here and there, but it's not going to do nearly as much damage as what we had back in Battlefield 4. The further and further out your enemy gets from you, though, the damage is going to start to increase until you reach this sweet spot where potentially, if you hit him in the upper chest, you're going to be able to one-shot them with that bullet. It does that full 100 damage. After that sweet spot, though, the damage starts to drop off. Not only that, but your weapon's bullet velocity will also decrease at a certain distance. So they've essentially added drag to your bullets. If you try to snipe someone 1,000 meters away, for the first like 200 meters, it's gonna fly. Like the bullet velocity is insanely fast, but then after that, it really slows down significantly. Like if you go for those long ball shots, you're really gonna have to predict where the enemy's head is gonna be because it's not gonna be easy to line it up because of that reduced velocity the further out your target goes. And so essentially what DICE has created here with this system is that they clearly want players to snipe at that sweet spot distance. Like this is what they envision recons to be like in Battlefield 1, and they're really trying to promote that play style. You can still be aggressive. I saw a lot of aggressive recons going for a headshot that's up close. You can still long range kill someone at a distance, but if you really want to get the most out of these weapons and playing as the Recon class, you're gonna want to be able to find that sweet spot and take advantage of it. The last thing I wanted to mention is the way that tank combat works. We already know that in past Battlefield games, there is different damage depending on where you hit a vehicle. If you hit in the side of the tank, it's gonna be more damage than if you hit in the front, and of course, if you hit them directly behind, that's gonna do the maximum amount of damage. That type of system is still present in Battlefield 1, but they're taking it a step further, where if you hit certain aspects, it also does different things to the tank. For example, if you take out the treads of the vehicle, it might flat out disable it so it can't move, and of course, that's gonna leave it very vulnerable. I also heard, now I didn't experience this, I heard this from someone else, but I also heard that if you hit them in the turrets, it will disable their weapon for a couple of seconds as well. This type of dynamic opens up a lot of different possibilities on how to approach tank combat. If you want to run away, let's say you're in a vehicle yourself and you just want to get away because you're low on health, then it might be a good idea to take out the treads so they can't pursue you. It might just be a good idea to go for their turret immediately so they can't retaliate. They may be able to run away from you, but they're not going to be able, of course, do damage for a couple of seconds. And while, of course, it remains to be seen how dynamic it's all going to be, I love the fact that they are trying to take combat to the next level. But yeah, guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Give me your thoughts on what I discussed. Are you liking the direction that they're taking with Battlefield 1? Or are you a little disappointed? Do you think it's amazing? Let me know down below. But yeah, until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.